loves, and welcome back to a new video. My name is Jade Shinu and I help people reclaim back their power physically, mentally and spiritually. So today I'm going to be talking about and exposing the one main thing that destroys pretty much every single relationship. So in this generation today, it's no secret that most relationships are highly toxic. It's probably the worst generation ever in humanity for relationships. The divorce rate is at its highest. People are always breaking up, cheating on each other and doing all types of crazy shit. It's very rare that you actually see a happy couple nowadays, which is pretty sad. And most of it is really down to this one catalyst. This one thing that really is so vital to have a sustainable, healthy relationship long term, that is actually going to last, not just through the honeymoon phase, but into marriage and so forth. And if you want to build a family, then it will pretty much last forever. So when people first get together, it's important to know that most people are on their best behavior for the first 3 months of every relationship. This is, notoriously called the honeymoon phase. So people put this kind of facade for about 3 to 4 months roughly. Sometimes consciously and sometimes subconsciously. So it's all normal to want to impress, a new person that obviously you're really infatuated with, that you really like. Sometimes it can be done in a toxic way. So if you're dealing with someone who is a narcissist, this is called love bombing, when they will really show you a lot of affection and love and really put their best foot forward. But this is entirely a facade and false. So it's important to kind of know the difference, and sometimes it can be difficult. So the one thing that is so important, that if it fades, if it goes away, is effort. So when you're in the honeymoon phase, you are giving that person 110% effort. You are literally making your relationship a priority. You're putting that person as a priority. And this, unfortunately, is what begins to fade when people tend to get, comfortable. Then their true, flaws start to come to the surface. And this isn't saying that you have to be perfect. No one is perfect. We all have our own traumas. We all have our own things that we're dealing with. But it's very unfortunate when this happens and then the relationship becomes one-sided. The number one thing that makes marriages last is when both parties, both partners of the relationship are really making an effort. And this doesn't mean that they can't make mistakes. This doesn't mean that they have to be, perfect, because obviously that doesn't exist. But if someone has flaws, if someone makes mistakes, but they're still trying, they still have the emotional maturity to acknowledge where they've done, what they've done wrong, and then put the effort in to actually fix the relationship, find solutions to any challenges, problems, anything like that. That is what will make it last. That is what shows that that person actually respects you and loves you. Because if someone is just going to pull back as soon as they get you hooked, as soon as you're like, oh, they feel like they've got you now, or as soon as they've slept with you or whatever, and then they just act like they don't give a shit anymore. They start, playing video games. They start prioritizing other things all the time over you, whether it be like friends, going out, partying, other pleasures, other forms of entertainment, playing the Xbox too much, gaming too much, and just completely ignoring you, not really making the effort to plan dates, to be intimate with you. This is really what kills, I'd say, 99% of relationships, because what is the point of being with someone if it's like you're not their best friend? What is the point of being with someone if you're not going to be a team? Because in a relationship, in a partnership that's conscious, that's healthy, that is actually loving, you are supposed to be a team. You're not supposed to be against each other. You're not supposed to be enemies. You're not supposed to be in competition. So it's not the battle of egos. It's really about unity. And the only thing that provides unity is effort in communicating and showing that person that you care, that you love them, that you're willing to work on yourself, that you're willing to try and eradicate any things, any issues that cause problems to the relationship. Because this is ultimately the most respectful and highly conscious form of love. This is what really makes or breaks every relationship and every marriage. Even in non-romantic relationships, even with friends, family, you know, if people take you for granted, if people don't appreciate your time, appreciate your, you know, your energy, your love, your affection that you give to them, it's a one-sided relationship. And then ultimately what happens is the person that is showing all their love, all their affection, you know, craving attention or whatever, putting in all the effort basically, you know, they then start to turn sick, stressed, drained, miserable, depressed. They feel unloved. You know, it can turn really, really sour. It can get so dark and so painful and hurtful for that person. And then the other person, you know, unfortunately, if they're too toxic or even narcissistic, they won't care. They'll still try to blame them or gaslight you, or, you know, they'll still be resistant to putting in effort to changing, you know, if it is a toxic dynamic. So it really is acknowledging, you know, this one true thing, and whether you are the person who is lacking the effort, you know, not showing that person that you love them, not making them a priority, not really giving them the love and attention and the space that they deserve, you know, step up. But if you're the person that keeps giving all your energy, normally if you're an empath, because this is unfortunately a very common thing that empathic people do, is you give too much. You try to fix that person. You just think, if I just keep giving them love and attention and doing all these things, it's magically going to make them give it back to you. But it doesn't. That's not how you deal with it. You have to take a step back. You have to implement boundaries. You have to communicate your needs. You have to communicate what is hurting you. And if they just keep shutting you down or attacking you or gaslighting you time and time and time again, and they just refuse to work on themselves, they refuse to hear you out, then you have to walk away. It really is that simple. Unfortunately, in this generation, the standards of people in relationships is so low. It is so shockingly low. This is why everyone is suffering in love, and everyone seems to be getting heartbroken or breaking up or getting cheated on or whatever. So it's so low that just basic loyalty, basic necessities, basic human needs is like seen as an effort, when it is literally the bare minimum to make a relationship healthy. That's how bad it's got. So being the person, you know, having two people show that they care and love and respect you is the fucking bare minimum of making a relationship work, whether it's romantic or not, or friends or family. Like, that ultimately is the bare minimum. So it's so shocking that people are so narcissistic and selfish or self-absorbed or cold, that it's like they just don't get it, they don't see it, and then they wonder why people walk away, or they change, or their partners get sick or withdrawn or stressed, or always are nagging them, then always starting to cause arguments, when really that person is trying to express their needs, because every single human being has the need of being seen and has the needs to be heard. This is why everyone wants to be, you know, a celebrity or famous or whatever, you know, in general. But most people, you know, when you're a child, you need that from your parents. You need to be seen, you need to be heard, you need to be understood. Every human needs that, because we are naturally sociable animals. And when a child does not get that from their parents, this is what causes wounding. This is what causes childhood trauma, you know, on different degrees, different levels. And then it can go either way. You turn too empathic, you turn too attached, or you turn too avoidant. You shut your heart down, and then you push people away all the time. So when dealing with a partner who you feel is not doing enough, who you feel is severely lacking in effort, you know, you can't suppress that. Because if you suppress that, if you don't communicate to them your needs effectively, and they keep shutting you down, that love will turn to resentment. That love will die. That love will eventually just completely go away. Because love isn't enough. It can't be one-sided. And this is what ultimately goes on in so many relationships today, is it always seems to be one person fighting for the other person, one person fighting for the relationship to work. They were doing so much to try and fix problems, always find solutions, and then the other one just doesn't give a shit. The other one's just coasting along and doing literally the bare minimum or below the bare minimum, just to keep that person hooked. you know, whether they're doing it consciously or not, because sometimes people do it unconsciously as well, because they kind of like don't want to really acknowledge that they deserve love, or they have no self-love. So of course there's so many like themes and catalysts that can cause people to not show up, to not do the effort. It doesn't always mean that they're just selfish or narcissistic. It can sometimes mean that they're extremely traumatized, that they're scared to show love, that they're scared to open their heart because they actually fear rejection, they fear being abandoned and so forth. So they just want to be, you know, keep a wall up basically as some sort of protection. But then they don't understand that obviously this causes more damage, this causes more harm, because you are then sabotaging a relationship and you're manifesting it to fail. You're basically creating that person to leave you. You're basically going to, you know, cause that relationship to go toxic and ultimately end. So it's kind of like they allow history to repeat itself, because a lot of the time people like that would have had very toxic parents, or seen, you know, them having a toxic relationship that they witnessed as a child. So, but then again, it's not a justified excuse to always use childhood trauma. So again, if you have someone that does that, it's like, well, what are you going to do about it? You're going to get therapy? Are you going to do this? Are you going to do that? Because in the end of the day, when you really love someone, you don't want to lose them. So you have to do the effort. You have to put effort in to actually make that relationship go healthy, to actually make it survive, to actually make it work. Because if you don't water it, it will end. And ultimately people, you know, they get themselves in relationships until that breaking point, until they realize they have to step up, they have to change in order to make the relationship healthy. But instead of watering, you know, the grass that they're on, they think, oh, fuck this, and I'm gonna go, you know, the grass is always greener syndrome. And then this is when you see people hopping from relationship to relationship to relationship, because it's like they'll find a new person and then the same thing will happen again, until that new person then starts implementing boundaries and being like, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? And then they'll move on to the next one. So you don't want to get trapped in that cycle if you are the person who is, you know, the avoidant or not putting in the effort. But then unfortunately you don't want to be the other person on the other side who gets trapped, stuck with someone for years and years and years, who doesn't show you the respect you deserve, who doesn't show you the intimacy, the love and affection and attention that you deserve. Because in the end of the day, it's far more better to be single and happy and work on yourself and be self-sufficient and really embody that self-love than to be with someone who makes you completely lose all of that. Because if you're with someone who makes you feel unloved every single day, who ghosts you, who ignores you, who doesn't make you a priority, who treats you like an option, that will be nearly impossible, an impossible environment for you to embody the energy of self-love. It is so difficult for someone, especially if you love that person, if they're making you feel unloved every day, that will ultimately make you lose self-love. So it is vitally important that you put yourself in the environment, whether you're single or not, where you can embody that energy. Otherwise it will make you ill, because then this can cause stress. This can cause so many things that ultimately, especially for women, will show up physically in the physical body. So this is so important that we truly embody this, that people who are too empathic, who, you know, lack boundaries, that you stand up for yourselves, that you really make that person be accountable for how they're treating you, and basically give them that ultimatum to step up or you're going to leave. And never fear being single, because trust me when I say this, it's far, far better to be happy on your own, even if you feel a bit lonely now and then, than to be in a toxic relationship where you feel completely worthless. And other important factors, of course, to really take into account when you're dealing with relationship issues, when you're dealing with a partner, is, you know, what is their emotional maturity like? Is like, do they even have the consciousness level to understand your needs? Are they even there? Or do they even have that within them? You know, are they even capable of showing love? Are they even capable of understanding your needs and your wants? Because if they're not, it's highly unlikely they ever will. And sometimes, unfortunately, it can take people 40, 50, even 60 years, their whole life to learn this lesson. Trust me, I've seen it. where they truly acknowledge how selfish or cruel or awful they have been to past partners. Normally one that they truly love that they completely sabotaged. So really, but it's not your duty to fix someone like that. You know, when you truly love someone, you can guide them, you can give, you know, your energy and guidance and love, but only to a degree, because people have to meet you halfway. You know, back to the effort thing. It's like, if they're not going to put the effort to meet you halfway, to have the maturity to acknowledge their flaws, to not let their ego get in the way, that just makes them completely be, you know, not want to take accountability for anything that they do that's wrong or hurts you, etc. You know, that is so important, that you basically are with someone who has the emotional maturity and wisdom to do that. And time again, you know, we see it especially with the younger generation, but even people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, they still do this. They still want to pretend like, you know, they're fine and perfect. And as a highly conscious woman or highly conscious man, but especially with the women, you know, you need to really stand by your boundaries with your men, because ultimately if you allow him to do certain things, or, you know, you allow certain things to enter and interfere with your relationship, that it's always going to bite you in the back, that you know is toxic or low vibrational. So for example, if you know that your man is addicted to porn and he always watches porn, and, you know, that is one of the worst things a man can do within a relationship, because ultimately, you know, go watch my videos on porn and porn addiction to learn more about why. But again, that is probably the second thing that I would say that completely destroys relationships. Because it is a weapon. It gives men literally brain damage, literal brain damage. It destroys their frontal cortex. And it completely is brainwashing them to view women as pieces of meat, to view you as nothing more than something that they can masturbate with to get pleasure from. It's highly toxic and very low vibrational. And even if your man is like, you know, looking at other women on Instagram or liking their photos, or, you know, commenting on them, is like, fuck that shit off. Like, if he is doing that and doesn't give it, you know, doesn't care, or tries to make excuses, like, leave. Just please leave, run, because that is probably the lowest vibrational thing that a man can do. It's so disrespectful to do that to your partner. You know, because remember, back in the day, this is why the older generation survived longer, had happier marriages, because they didn't have social media as well. But this isn't just bashing social media, because social media is an incredible tool. The internet is amazing, but unfortunately it does have a very dark side. But it's the person who chooses whether or not they use the internet for shady, dark things or for healthy, beneficial things. So, you know, really judge that person's character, have discernment of like what man or what woman they truly are. Are they a conscious person working on themselves? Are they aware of what damages them? Are they aware of what brings them down? You know, if they're just a matrix zombie or whatever, you know, completely consumed by things that are just, you know, perverted, or all about gluttony or ego or whatever the case, you know, you have to be the one to take responsibility and walk away from that, because that energy will literally taint you. It will taint your aura. It will taint your spirit. So do not settle. One of the most important things that a woman and a man can do is do not settle for someone that you know is not good for you. So this is why you have to be with someone who is making the effort, not just on the relationship, not just with you, but also on themselves. Because someone can, you know, romanticize you, someone can buy you gifts and flowers and look like they're making an effort. But what are they really doing behind closed doors? You know, what are they really consuming? How are they living their life? How do they treat other people? Are they even a good person? Like, do they just allow, you know, their lustful desires and weaknesses to consume them? Because if you're with a man who just gives in to his desires, that is a weak man. If a man can't control his sexual urges, if he can't respect you enough to literally not like another woman's photo, for Christ's sake, or he is too weak to avoid working on certain things that he knows brings him down, such as addictions, etc., then, you know, that is not a healthy person to be with. It's very difficult to have a happy relationship with someone like that, if not impossible. And when it comes to the feminine, you know, with women, time and time again, you know, men will try to dominate us, but in the wrong ways. And then they'll complain why a woman is in her masculine energy. But like I always say, you know, women in general, obviously except for, you know, some, I'm not saying that all women are perfect, of course we're not. But I'm just saying, you know, in general, most women mirror how a man treats her. You know, if you treat a woman like a queen, she will treat you like a king. It really is that simple. But you have to be loving towards her, respectful towards her. Otherwise, you know, things will ultimately fail. So you have to make the effort to be a good person and ultimately to treat that person right and actually make the relationship a priority. Because at the end of the day, you know, with your partner, you really spend the most time with your partner. So they should be a main priority. You know, they are literally with you every single day. You know, the family dynamic, or if you're just a couple, you know, it is so important to have that as, you know, to put that on the top of your list to be healthy. Because that's what ultimately the Matrix is trying to destroy as well, like I said in my other video. And the other thing that's really important to know is obviously with you, you know, you have to make the effort to love yourself as well, because it can be very difficult to show love to someone else when you don't have self-love, because, you know, other things and other wounds and pain and trauma will come to the surface. But like I was saying earlier, if you're with someone who brings out the worst in you, who pulls you down into a state of not loving yourself, into a state of low worth, insecurity, that sort of thing, because of the toxic habits that they do to you consistently, or the things that they don't do for you, because it's not just the things they do for you, it's the things that they lack. You know, if they ignore you, if they don't make an effort with you, you know, that is so important to acknowledge. So if you need any one-to-one help, I do offer one-to-one services where I give spiritual therapy, spiritual guidance using my own intuition and oracle cards. So if you want to book a reading, then the link is down below in the description box as always. And I also have exclusive content on my Patreon, so more conspiracy stuff, well, you know, truth, and darker content that I can't post on YouTube. If you want to learn how to develop your intuition and open your third eye, I do have a free ebook on how to detox the third eye, so that's also available completely for free, and a chakra cleanse as well. So all of that is in the same link in my link tree down below in the description box. So please click that if you want to book in or download my ebooks. So, or sign up to Patreon. So until next time, my loves, please like, subscribe, and don't forget to click the notification bell so you get notified in the future of my future uploads. And until then, I'm sending you so much love, so much light. Ahimsa.